Thank you so much for joining us on our summer learning series regarding state accountability. Today, we're going to review the school progress domain. Let's begin with a brief overview of the accountability system. The overall design of the accountability system evaluates performance according to 3 domains. Student achievement, which evaluates performance across all subjects for all students on both general and alternate assessments. Additionally, for high schools, K-12s, and districts, there is an evaluation of college, career, and military readiness indicators, CCMR, and graduation rates. School progress. This measures district and campus outcomes in 2 areas: the number of students that grew at least 1 year academically, as measured by STAAR results, and the achievement of all students relative to districts or campuses with similar economically disadvantaged percentages. School progress is what we're going to focus on today. And lastly, the closing the gaps domain, which uses disaggregated data to demonstrate differentials among racial ethnic groups, socioeconomic backgrounds, and other factors. These indicators in this domain, as well as the domain's construction, align with the state accountability system and with the Every Student Succeeds Act. So in order to calculate an overall accountability rating label for a campus or district, each domain is evaluated for performance and assigned a rating according to its scaled score. The scale score ranges on the right-hand side show that a score from 90 to 100 equals an A, 80 to 89 equals a B, 70 to 79 equals a C, 60 to 69 equals a D, and any scaled score at 59 and below equals an F. So every domain, achievement, progress, and closing the gaps, is given a letter grade. In order to assign an overall rating label for the campus or district, the better of achievement or school progress is used and worth 70% of the overall letter grade, with the remaining 30% of the letter grade based on the closing the gaps domain. For today's presentation, we're going to be focusing on the school progress domain. A video of the presentation on the student achievement domain is available on the A through F resources page at tea.texas.gov/A-F/. This presentation, or the presentation on the closing the gaps domain, will take place on August 7th, and I hope you join us for that. So let's get started on the school progress domain. House Bill 22 requires that the accountability system measure the percentage of students who meet the standard for improvement and evaluate the overall student performance at a district or campus compared to similar districts or campuses. So there are 2 parts to the school progress domain that will be evaluated. So the school progress domain measures district and campus outcomes in 2 areas. Part A, academic growth, evaluates the number of students that grew at least 1 year academically or maintained performance as measured by STAAR results. And Part B, relative performance, evaluates the achievement of students relative to districts or campuses with similar economically disadvantaged percentages. Both Part A and Part B are evaluated and scored. The overall rating for the school progress domain will be the better of Part A, academic growth, or Part B, relative performance. So whichever is the higher result is what will be used for the overall score for the school progress domain for that particular campus and district. Okay, so let's review the first part of the school progress domain, Part A, academic growth. Academic growth provides an opportunity for districts and campuses to receive credit for STAAR results in English language arts or reading and mathematics that either meet the student level criteria for the STAAR progress measure or maintain performance. So Part A relies on the STAAR progress measure. So what is the STAAR progress measure? The STAAR progress measure provides information about the amount of improvement or progress that a student has made in a content area. This measure is based on a comparison of a student's test score in the previous accountability year with their score in the current accountability year. In other words, the STAAR progress measure evaluates the improvement or progress a student made from 2018 to 2019. So how is that measured? Well, progress is measured by calculating a student's gain score. That's the difference between the scale score a student achieved in the previous accountability year and the scale score a student achieved in the current accountability year. Individual student progress is categorized as either limited, expected, or accelerated progress. A student can only receive one of these labels. So how is the STAAR progress measure different from STAAR performance levels? STAAR performance levels describe and classify performance in the current year. The STAAR performance levels are master's grade level performance, meets grade level, approaches grade level, or did not meet grade level performance. So in contrast, the STAAR progress measure provides information about the improvements or progress that the students have achieved between the previous year and the current year within the same content area. Individual student progress is compared to progress targets, and progress is then classified for that student as either limited, expected, or accelerated progress. So which grades and subjects receive a STAAR progress measure? Well, in 2019, the STAAR progress measure is reported for grades 4 through 8 for reading, for the English STAAR, grades 4 through 5 for reading and in Spanish for the Spanish STAAR, grades 4 through 8 in mathematics, algebra 1, and English 2. Progress designations of did not meet, met, or exceeded are also reported for STAAR alternate 2 assessments. And English learners, ELs, are eligible for STAAR progress measures. So the first thing that you're going to notice here is that not every STAAR administration has a corresponding STAAR progress measure. For example, there is no grade 3 STAAR progress measure reported for students. This is because there is not a grade 2 STAAR test that is given in Texas. STAAR testing begins at grade 3. And because the STAAR progress measure evaluates performance from the previous year to the current year, grade 4 is the first time a student has a progress measure reported. So you may have an elementary that is serving grades 3, 4, and 5. Now, while the student achievement domain evaluates STAAR performance in grades 3, 4, and 5, the school progress domain would only evaluate STAAR progress measures for grades 4 and 5 for that elementary campus. Also note that not every student is eligible for a STAAR progress measure. So why do some students not receive a STAAR progress measure? Well, students must meet all of the following criteria within the same content area, math, reading, or English language arts, to receive a STAAR progress measure. First, they must have taken the STAAR assessment in the previous year and a STAAR assessment in the current year. So this means that a student must have taken the STAAR test in the state of Texas in the previous year and in the current year. So students who transferred to Texas public schools from out of state, or were homeschooled, or were private schooled in the previous year are not eligible to receive a STAAR progress measure because we do not have a STAAR test from 2018 to make a calculation for progress or improvement to 19. Next, they must have a valid score from the previous year and the current year. So for example, a student who was absent for STAAR testing in 2018 and 2019 would not have valid scores and therefore not have a STAAR progress measure. The student must have tested in successive grade levels or EOC assessments in the previous year and the current year to get a STAAR progress measure. Now, students who took the same grade level or EOC assessment in the previous year and the current year will not receive a progress measure. For example, a student who was in grade 4 in 2018 and also in grade 4 in 2019 would not get a STAAR progress measure. However, students who take STAAR assessments and have skipped a grade level between the previous year and the current year, like a grade 5 student advancing to grade 7, will receive a STAAR progress measure. Additionally, students must meet all of the following criteria within the same content area, math, reading, or English language arts, to get a STAAR progress measure. For STAAR reading assessments, they must have taken tests in the same language in the previous year and the current year, like last year in English, this year in English, or last year in Spanish, this year in Spanish. For Algebra 1 and English 2, they must have taken the test for the first time as an end-of-course test, not a retest. So this is just a very high-level overview of the STAAR progress measure and only covers some of the main concepts as it relates to the school progress domain. Detailed information on the STAAR progress measure is available at the following website. There you can find resources for educators and administrators like you, such as how to calculate a student's progress measure, parent letters, frequently asked questions, and information on the STAAR alternate to progress measure. So now that we know a little bit more about the STAAR progress measure, the following table shows how districts and campuses earn credit for school progress Part A for results that maintain proficiency or meet the STAAR progress measure growth expectations. Okay, so on the left-hand side of the table are the previous year's STAAR performance levels. Did not meet, approaches, meets, and masters. At the top are the current year STAAR performance levels. Did not meet, approaches, meets, and masters. Remember that the STAAR progress measure categorizes individual student progress as limited, expected, or accelerated. So if a student's progress measure is expected, he or she met growth expectations. If the student's progress measure is accelerated, he or she exceeded growth expectations. Okay, let's do an example. A student had approaches grade level performance in the previous year on the left-hand side and approaches grade level performance in the current year. So let's look in the corresponding box. So if the student's progress measure was categorized as expected, then they met their growth expectations and are awarded 1 point and 1 point max. Let's do another example. A student did not meet grade level performance in the previous year and approaches grade level performance in the current year. If the student's progress measure was categorized as accelerated, then they exceeded their growth expectations and are awarded 1 point max. The maximum a student can earn in this table is 1 point. Okay, let's do another example. A student had approaches grade level performance in the previous year and approaches grade level performance in the current year. If the student's progress measure was categorized as limited, then the student did not meet growth expectations for the STAAR progress measure. However, the student did pass the STAAR test in the previous year at the approaches grade level and also passed in the current year at the approaches grade level. So although the student did not meet the STAAR progress measure growth expectations, the student did maintain proficiency. So the student is awarded half a point of credit in this example. Let's look at other examples. So there are 7 different ways to not earn any points for academic growth. No points are awarded for not growing or for not maintaining proficiency. For example, a student had master's grade level performance in the previous year and now has approaches grade level in the current year. Although the student did pass the test last year and passed this year, the student is awarded no points for academic growth because the student did not meet or exceed growth expectations, nor did the student maintain the same level of proficiency from last year to this year. There are 3 different ways to earn half a point of credit. Half a point is awarded for maintaining proficiency even if the STAAR progress measure expectation is not met. For example, a student had meets grade level performance in the previous year and meets grade level performance in the current year. If the student's progress measure was categorized as limited, then the student did not meet growth expectations on STAAR. However, the student did pass the STAAR test in the previous year at the meets grade level standard and also passed in the current year at the meets grade level standard. So although the student didn't meet growth expectations, the student did maintain proficiency at the meets grade level standard, so the student is awarded half a point of credit. Lastly, there are 11 different ways to earn the full point of credit. So 1 point of credit is awarded for meeting or exceeding the STAAR progress measure expectations, or for achieving a high level of proficiency from last year to this year. For example, a student who maintained master's level performance from the previous year to the current year will be awarded 1 point of credit. The same concept applies for STAAR Alternate 2 assessments. The STAAR Alternate 2 progress measure provides information on the amount of improvement or growth that a student made in the subject area. And this is based on a comparison of the student's score from last year with their score to this year. And the progress designations are labeled as did not meet, met, or exceeded growth for STAAR Alternate 2. So note that the performance levels on STAAR Alternate 2 differ from the STAAR test, but the same concept applies. For example, a student who scored at level 2 satisfactory last year and level 2 satisfactory this year will get 1 point awarded if they meet or exceed their progress expectations for STAAR Alternate 2. So how we calculate academic growth is as follows. School Progress Part A includes all assessments with eligible growth measures. And when we say growth measures, we mean the STAAR progress measure. All students are evaluated, and substitute assessments are not included. We cannot measure growth from, for example, grade 8 STAAR to a student taking a substitute assessment for Algebra 1, for example. We cannot calculate growth in that scenario. So the academic growth score is expressed as a percentage, the total points divided by the maximum points, rounded to the nearest whole number. So let's run through an example calculation of Part A academic growth. Let's say a campus has 100 grade 4 through 8 students, all of whom took reading and math STAAR assessments in the current year and the prior year. So our denominator is 200 STAAR progress measures. Remember, this is from 100 assessments in reading and 100 assessments in math that have progress measures. So our first step is to calculate the total number with no points. In this example, we had 20 assessments that did not meet last year and did not meet this year. We also had 15 assessments that went from approaches last year to did not meet this year, and 14 assessments that went from master's performance last year to meets this year. So we add all those assessments to get a total of 49 assessments with no points awarded. Next, we calculate those assessments that are worth half a point. So last year we had 7 assessments that did not meet in the previous year and that went to approaches in the current year. We had 7 also assessments that went from approaches last year to approaches this year, and 3 assessments that went from meets last year to meets in the current year. We add those assessments to get a total of 17 assessments that did not meet the STAAR progress measure growth expectations, but they did maintain proficiency. Lastly, we calculate those assessments that are worth a full point. So we had 52 assessments that went from approaches last year to approaches this year that met or exceeded their growth expectation. 30 that went from meets last year to meets this year, 35 that went from meets last year to masters this year, and 17 that went from masters last year and maintained masters in the current year. We add up all of those assessments to get a total of 134 assessments that are going to be awarded 1 full point. Now remember, this is just an example calculation. There are other scenarios in growth to get a full point. So remember, our campus has 100 grade 4 through 8 students, all of whom took a reading and math STAAR assessment in the current year and the prior year. So our denominator is 200 STAAR progress measures, from which 100 assessments that are in reading and 100 are in math that have progress measures. 200 is the denominator. So we calculate now the numerator. We look at those results that earned no points, earned half a point, and earned the full point. So we had 49 assessments that are worth 0 points. We had 17 that are worth half a point, which gets me 8.5, and 134 that are worth a full point. So I add those numbers together to get a numerator of 142.5 over 200. That gets me a 71.25%, which rounds to a 71. That is my component score. So in order to align grades and scores in the A through F academic accountability system to the common conception of letter grades, the raw or the component score are adjusted to scale scores. The methodology and formulas for scaling domains and components are provided in the 2019 Accountability Manual, and a scaling tool is available at the following website. So in this example, the 71 component score result would be scaled to, based on that campus type, either a 74 or a C letter grade for an elementary campus, or a 79 or a C letter grade for a middle school. And if this was a high school example, that 71 component score would be scaled to an 81 or a B letter grade. And that is how we get a scaled score and a letter grade for Part A, academic growth. Now let's discuss Part B, relative performance. For Part B, relative performance, we look at the following. For elementary and middle schools, for Part B, we evaluate overall performance on the student achievement STAAR component compared to campuses with similar percentages of economically disadvantaged students as reported on the PEIMS TSDS October snapshot. For high schools, K through 12s, and districts, we evaluate the average of the student achievement STAAR component and the CCMR component compared to districts or campuses with similar percentages of economically disadvantaged students as reported in the PEIMS fall snapshot. Alternative education accountability campuses are not evaluated on School Progress Part B due to small numbers of campuses available for comparison. So in order to establish targets, a scatter plot was developed for districts and by each campus type, which compared the student achievement results with the percentage of students who are economically disadvantaged. Then a quadratic regression was run to establish separate cut points by campus type and district. Now these targets are established and are scheduled to remain steady for 5 years. So this is an example of how this was calculated. Relative performance measures student achievement results of all students relative to districts or campuses with similar economically disadvantaged percentages. So the left-hand side, or the y-axis, is the component result from the student achievement domain for STAAR, or STAAR and CCMR for districts and campuses that have graduates. For elementary schools and middle schools, they do not have graduates, so STAAR is the only component for relative performance. For high schools and districts that have the data, it's STAAR and CCMR. Along the bottom, or the x-axis, is the percentage of economically disadvantaged students as reported in the TSDS PEIMS October snapshot. So in this example, each dot represents a campus, and where one falls is determined by its score from the student achievement and CCMR components and its percentage of students who are considered economically disadvantaged. So we know that generally a campus with fewer economically disadvantaged students has higher levels of student achievement. And generally a campus with more economically disadvantaged students tends to have lower levels of student achievement. So a quadratic regression was run to establish an average line and to establish separate cut points by campus type and for districts. So from that average line, the agency developed bands that would determine grades for relative performance that are A, like in the green zone, B, the darker blue zone, C, the lighter blue zone, D, the yellow zone, and F, our red zone area. So let's walk through an example of how to calculate relative performance results for a high school that has STAAR and CCMR data. So we have an example high school, and at this high school, 70% of students were identified as economically disadvantaged on the TSDS PEAMS October snapshot. This campus earned a 52, which is the average student achievement STAAR, that's the 47 component score, and a CCMR of 57 component score. So that 47 plus 57 equals 104, which is divided by 2, and that gets me my 52. That's the y-axis line. My x-axis is the 70% eco-dis for my high school. So in this example, the high school is in the darker blue zone, and that would earn a B for school progress for Part B relative performance. So I would get a B letter grade in this example. And in order to align letter grades and scores to the common conception of letter grades, raw and component scores are again adjusted to scale scores. The methodology and the formula for scaling domains and components are provided in the accountability manual, and a scaling tool is available. So in the previous example, a high school with 52 averaged student achievement STAAR and CCMR components and a 70% reported economically disadvantaged students would receive a B. Specifically, they would receive an 83 scaled score using our online scaling tool. So how do we calculate the overall school progress rating? So remember that we take the higher of Part A or Part B and apply it to the overall rating for the school progress domain. So let's go back to our previous examples. For Part A, academic growth, we had a component score of 71, and that gets scaled. And in this example, it's scaled to an 81 for a high school. For Part B, relative performance, in our previous example, they had a 52 for student achievement, that's from the STAAR and CCMR average, and a reported 70% eco-dis. That is scaled for a high school in that example to an 83. So we take the higher of Part A or Part B and apply it to the school progress domain. So in this example, 83 is higher than an 81. So this example high school would receive an 83 or a B rating for the school progress domain. Okay, I have some calendar updates for you. In late July, we're going to release the preliminary 2019 overall accountability ratings preview. This will be a preview of your accountability rating in each domain and overall for 2019. This will be released in Teal Accountability. On August 7th, we'll have preliminary performance domain tables without rating labels released in Teal Accountability. And then on August 14th, we'll have accountability ratings released to districts and in charters. Those will be through Teal Accountability, with everything being public on August 15th. We are posting additional resources on the A through F system at tea.texas.gov/A-F. We also have a copy of this presentation and other presentations available on our performance reporting resources site, so I encourage you to visit. If you have not done so, please sign up for our weekly performance reporting bulletin listserv. You can go to the TEA homepage, and at the very top, there is a link for sign up for updates. You can click on that and then sign up for the performance reporting weekly bulletin. We have additional resources on accountability on our performance reporting homepage. Our 2019 accountability rating system webpage is up. You can view the accountability manual, You can view our administrator guide, which was recently published for administrators at the campus and the district level. It's an abridged version of the accountability manual. If you have any questions regarding accountability or anything related to accountability, please send us an email to performance.reporting@tea.texas.gov. Feel free to call us too at 512-463-9704. This concludes our webinar presentation. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you back in August when we review the Closing the Gaps domain.